everybody. Welcome back to the Sensibly Cynical podcast. My name is Sean, and today's guest is Emily Gabriele. She's an amazing singer-songwriter based out of New York City. Her music is pop-infused with a bit of rock. Her latest album, titled Omega Man, is set to drop May 27th. Joining me now, she is a very talented singer-songwriter out of New York City, Emily Gabriele. How are you doing this evening?
Oh gosh, Sean, you nailed the pronunciation of my name, so we're off to a great start.
Yeah, well, I do my research for certain things. And there's certain things where I don't do my research for, and then there's certain things, like important things that I do. So.
All right. Well done. Yes, can confirm I am indeed Emily Gabriele, based out of the New York City area. Here tonight talking to Sean.
Yeah, from the Sensibly Cynical podcast. So talk about your journey through music. Like, New York City must be kind of an eclectic scene, I would assume.
Yeah, eclectic's a good word. I think there's an abundance of talent in New York as well, for artists and creators in all forms. And I think that's part of the allure and the luster of being in a metropolitan area.
Mm-hmm. Is there like a route, like a certain place that you go to all the time because you know the promoter, because you know the people running it? Do you have some sort of rapport with a certain amount of places, or do you try to change it up?
Yeah, are you speaking strictly to like live venue performances?
Yeah. Like in a live venue, like, because I assume there's a lot of conversations with people who run the.
Yeah, it's definitely a scene to be mapped out and to be thoughtfully approached. Like anything else, you have to kind of put in the work in order to get a booking, right? And like, what do I mean by that? You're not going to start out your career at booking like as a headliner on a Saturday night at a big venue kind of thing. So it's something to work your way up towards. And I think it makes sense. It's a barrier to entry with the intention of seeing like, hey, how seriously is this person going to take their music and their live performance? And are they willing to put in, the hours, the time and the overall effort to play at these different venues. You ask, is there a specific place that I frequent to play? One of them is certainly the Bowery Electric. I've loved playing at that venue. It's a fun nightclub feel in the Lower East Side. And I've played there quite a few times, and I actually have an album release concert coming up at the Bowery Electric on Saturday, April 9th. So pretty pumped for that. I'm playing with some other great artists by the name of Sweet Boy and Taya. So it's gonna be a fun packed night. And I think, if you're in the New York City area and you feel so inclined to join, mark your calendar, Saturday, April 9th.
Well, there you go. Let's go in the Wayback Machine, I guess I could say. What inspired you to get into music, and when did you start?
Yeah, it's a great question. And what inspired me to get into music is listening to music, right? And ingesting music as a consumer. When I was in, I guess it was grammar school, I was prompted with the opportunity to like pick an instrument to learn, and I chose the alto saxophone. I actually still have that saxophone today, but I don't really play it too frequently. So that's kind of where my exploration with an instrument began. I was also a part of different choruses and vocal ensembles throughout, growing up and involved in the school music program. We had a great program where I grew up, and then I picked up the guitar and I taught myself, for better or for worse. And from there, once you have a few instruments or one instrument that you've tried, you start getting curious about other instruments. At least I did, from a piano to bass to percussion instruments. So yeah, that's kind of where it started. I think at my core, something that really defines me is being a writer. So writing anything from poetry to prose and songs feels very much a part of my core essence and core being. So I think that instruments were or are actively a vessel for me to pair with my writing and my storytelling.
Mm. Do you have a team with you that helps you get set and helps you with the day-to-day stuff now? Or is it just like people that you can trust?
I think it's a conversation for another time, people that you can trust. But anyway, no.
We can move on. That's fine.
No. I'm making a joke, but I do have a team that I frequently work with, a team of creators that I from live players to producers that I love working with, and mixing engineers, mastering engineers, even co-writers. I certainly have a group of individuals that I work with and have fun with. Honestly, it's work and play.
Yeah, well, if you can play while paying the bills, then that's better than some people can say. I'm just kidding, but so I did a little.
This is fun for you. Don't play. This is fun for you.
Oh no, I like interviewing people. It's fun. I have it down. Like when I first started, I was like, I didn't know how to start. Now I'm doing this, not trying to be cocky or anything, but I'm doing this like without notes, really. So
there you go. You honed in on the art of a conversation.
Yeah, it's really not that hard as long as you have confidence and done 20 of these like me. So now it's old hat. It's old hat to me now. But so you I looked at your website and it says your music is like a mix of Olivia Rodrigo and Alanis Morissette. Why those two?
Yeah, great question. So you asked about inspiration. I think that Jagged Little Pill is one of the first CDs, if not the first CD that I had or I bought. Definitely high up on the list. And I love Alanis Morissette for a lot of reasons. And she's been a big inspiration for me musically. And then Olivia Rodrigo, I mean, on my Spotify Wrapped, she took up like all the top spots. Definitely listened to Sour tons of times. And I think the commonality between the two is they are both angsty females in a way. And they're really excellent at telling stories about their life in from a unique perspective that is not really in the vein of a quintessential love song or ballad or things like that. I mean, there are resemblances of those, those core tracks that you would look for in an artist, I suppose. But they definitely have their own unique take on it, a little left of center. And I think that's something that resonates with me and inspires me.
Yeah. Ironic. That's my favorite Morissette song. I love it.
Yeah. Very masterful with her words.
Well, let's dive into your, I guess, discography, as they say. Monday, I saw the video I saw you play that live, or the YouTube version. Do you remember? I heard that lyric, and that took me back to college because some Mondays I don't remember. So, what was the inspiration behind that song? Like,
well, you remember that you don't remember them, so that's kind of some way of remembering. What inspired Monday? Honestly, a conversation. I was I had grabbed dinner with some pals, and I think it was probably like a Thursday or something, and they're like, oh yeah, I think it was on Monday that do you remember Monday? It seemed like it was like forever ago. And that kind of, went into my head. And then I was taking the subway home, and someone else said something about, like, in so many words, like, I was there for you through this. And then I think that conversation, listening in, I started kind of piecing together this narrative of a song. So, just kind of observational listening is what led to me writing that song.
I feel like that's one of your biggest songs. You think that got a reception from people, like people can relate to? You feel that way?
Yeah, I think that it's also kind of a fun song. Yes, people, I mean, at its core, what draws some what draws a fan or a listener to listen to a song? Is it relatability? Is it the musicality of it? Is it a mixture of both? Not sure, but I think when I play that song live in particular, it's definitely something that people like to sing along to and kind of groove to. And yeah, I think that it's a fun one. So I think that is what I can accredit, the many streams and many sing-alongs too.
Yeah. So in this, I like to call this the Spotify era. What are some what do you think are some pros and cons of Spotify? Like, what are some things that you're like, oh man, I have to do this to get this on Spotify? Or is it like all positives, you would think? Do you think?
Yeah. There's a lot of different avenues to assess and approach Spotify as a whole. I'm curious, I guess I would pepper back to you. What do you encompass in your definition of the Spotify era?
I would consider the Spotify era a place that a lot of people go to kind of like start their career, even though what I hear is that they take a lot of the costs, I feel like that is kind of like the iTunes for podcasting is similar to like the Spotify for music, that and Pandora, but I feel like Spotify has more of a broader library. So that's why I seem, maybe, am I wrong in that, or do I have
No. I was just curious the direction in which you were headed with the definition of Spotify era. And correct me if I'm wrong, it seems as though you're using that definition through the lens of the creator.
Right.
Got it.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So go ahead.
No, because all the artists I've talked to in the last, I don't know, year or so, I've always mentioned, getting it on Spotify or whatever.
Yeah. So sorry to make you repeat yourself, but the question is, what do I make of the Spotify era?
Yeah. Like, what do you think about how Spotify has changed music?
Yeah. Gosh, I have a lot to say on this matter, but put succinctly, I think change is inevitable. And I think that Spotify is a result of an industry change. That's kind of step one. Step two, I think that it provides access for all artists or is one of the many platforms for artists to distribute their content. Mm-hmm. And they don't have this gatekeeper of a label or, right. I guess a label will stop there in order to have their music accessed. So that's kind of, you think of the pros, both of those are just, I don't even think good nor bad. It's just, it exists. And you're like, okay, so, and if you're not adapting as a creator, well, then you will inevitably kind of be behind your peers, right? Or you'll have this super niche group that like loves to consume your art in one strict, stagnant form, and that's fine. But in terms of growth and continued exposure, you might come up against more challenges. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but just that it would be have some additional challenges if you only were in one specific static content delivery system. Anyway, so I kind of started to answer your question. I have a lot more to say on that, but I'm going to pause and kick it back over to you and ask you if there's something else you'd like me to dig into.
No, that's fine. So you have Talking to Strangers that is released. What was the inspiration behind that song? And talk about the meaning behind it personally, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Okay, so I released the song Talking to Strangers on March 4th, 2022. And what I'm doing with the album in which Talking to Strangers is on is called Omega Man. And Omega Man is actually my release strategy here is an album build along. What do I mean by that? So starting on March 4th, I released the first of 7 tracks that make up the entirety of Omega Man. And every 2 weeks, I'm going to release another song from Omega Man so that you can build the album along with me. And along with that, if you follow me on Instagram or are part of my newsletter, you will also be getting these additional components of the album itself, such as a bit of a story behind each track, and exclusive content of me performing it in each track in an acoustic setting. Mm-hmm. And also each track has its own album art for the cover art. So, again, kind of building it along with me, piecing everything together. So that will happen from March 4th until May 27th. So on May 27th, the entire album Omega Man will be available to stream in its full, as a full body of work. Okay, now that I explained that, I digress slightly. Back to your original question about Talking to Strangers itself. Mm-hmm. So Talking to Strangers is a song that I wrote, I want to say it must have been in like 2018, 2019. It was quite some time ago. At any rate, the inspiration for the song is talking to strangers. I mean, see, again, that observational nature in me is like, talking to strangers is something that people do. Because if you go get a coffee and you're speaking to a barista, that barista is likely a stranger until they're not. If you go back time and time again and start talking to them. If you go to a bar, if you go to a restaurant, if you go outside to grab your mail, there's lots of these opportunities where people are strangers to each other and you're talking to them. And then from there, the narrative of the song, I want it to be interpreted as people see fit in their own vein, in their own experience. So yeah, that's a little bit about that track.
From start to finish, how long did the process take, like for you to write it, all that?
Gosh, okay. So I'm trying to think back, and I believe it must have been, I wrote the song in its first iteration. And then I went back and I worked on it, and I tried working on it with a few different producers. And ultimately I want to say it must have been July of 2020 during the pandemic. I was on a radio show, and the host of the radio show after the show reached out to me, sent me a DM on Instagram and was like, hey, would you want to collaborate together? And I sent him Talking to Strangers. His name is Chris Clark. He's the producer that partnered with me on all the songs on Omega Man. And I sent him the working version of Talking to Strangers. I guess that to me was the start of the version that I shared with the world of Talking to Strangers, is when I partnered with Chris Clark.
So yeah, I like the song. Pretty cool vibes to it. So has this promotional tactic have you used that before? I wouldn't say tactic, but you know what I mean? Like how to promote it. Do you feel like that's something that you'll continue forward? Is it something that you've done before? Because I really like it. I think it's genius, actually. I didn't know if I'm sorry if tactic wasn't the right word, but you know what I mean? Like strategy, totally. I guess.
No. I mean, I get what you mean. You get your point across, and I have no issue with that. Yeah, I think, to answer your question pointedly, I haven't tried this before. I think the genesis of this strategy or tactic is...
I didn't mean it like that.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. But the genesis of it is wanting to have an opportunity to build the project along with me in all these different components, because each song has a story to it. And in the way that we as a society are consuming media these days, we have shorter attention spans that can be accredited to, information overload, TikTok, Snapchat, anything, right? Short form content is kind of where it's at in a way. So to me, having the short form of a digestible piece of art, whether it's the cover art or a small story, a 3-sentence story behind the song itself, and then the song itself, like that to me is very suitable to the current state of society's attention span. I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that's just me reading the room and trying to be perceptive and, right, like I said, change, adapt, adjust to the current climate.
Mm-hmm. I saw that your music would be classified as pop with a little rock. Do you have any? Were you into all the pop punk bands back in the day? Blink-182, any of them?
I actively like Blink-182. No doubt another, I don't know how you classify them. But I love pop music and I love rock music. I think Alanis Morissette's a good example of that. I think Olivia Rodrigo's a good example of that. I mean, even like a Taylor Swift is a good example of that. I know that she's country and there was country, went pop, had a little dip into electronic, kind of rooted in rock. I mean, I also love rock music. I love the Beatles. Beatles are pop rock, right? They had this, wild career of being extremely poppy on the forefront and then ending in a bit more of a rock influence area.
I see some comparisons between you and Avril Lavigne. Am I wrong in that, or would you agree with that?
I haven't received that before, or no one's ever said that to me. So congrats on being the first. And second, I don't think it's off base at all. If you see something in someone or feel inspired or see a resemblance between two people, two things, then something about it exists. But that's cool. I guess is there something in particular that you're like, I think that you and Avril Lavigne have X in common?
It's like the vibe, like on stage vibe. It's more a vibe rather than actual, like, I would say, output. It's like you guys have similar cool vibes to it. Like, and I feel like you guys' both of your ranges are pretty awesome. So I'm a big Avril fan. So I meant that as a compliment in every facet.
Cool. Well, it's been received as such, and yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, Avril Lavigne was Skater Boy and Complicated were like anthemic growing up.
Who's your number one? Like, if you had to pick a greatest, I know it's a loaded question, but who's your greatest of all time?
Oh gosh, that's nearly impossible. I mean, my greatest of all time, like who I think is the greatest, will probably change from. It'll continue to transform. I think one of my biggest influences, I'll say, is Alanis Morissette, because she is.
Mm-hmm.
But greatest of all time, I have a list. I can't say one.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
how about you?
There's to me, I mean, I got female. I would probably. I mean, it's hard not to say like Madonna, Cher.
Okay.
I like Cher, and there's a couple others, but. Yeah, this is pretty cool. Like your vibes, like, are you branching out past New York? Are you going, what's your tour like for this promotional?
Yeah, it's a great question. Lot of things in the works. Right now, really focusing on the release strategy for the produced version and on the album release concert locally at the Bowery Electric on Saturday, April 9th. Beyond that, have some things cooking, but nothing announced yet. So I don't want to give away too much.
Yeah. Like, what do you like most about producing music? Like, is it all strenuous, or do you really enjoy that part, actually producing it and giving it out to people to enjoy?
Yeah. I think that business in general also lends itself to creativity. It's just a different type of creativity, right? Like, I'm not going to say, oh, I need to put together a budget. Let me pick up a guitar and play some notes. Like, honestly, like that's a different type of being creative. But I think that anything that's an administrative work, like working with a digital distributor, working with press, with different media outlets, with organizing all of your metadata, things like that. I think that is an art in and of itself. And I think there are some creative elements to that. So I wouldn't say I loathe or love one thing over the other. I just think a lot of it is there's a seasonality in your own creative journey, that you have to kind of be prepared to let the energy flow where it needs to. So, to your point, it's just you as an independent artist, you have to be everything to yourself. And because of that, you try to find the joy and the pleasure in all aspects. Otherwise, I guess you could hire someone else to do it, but then it's a quick sinkhole for your cash. And it's also kind of, dare I say, fun and encouraging to to learn all aspects of what it takes to be a musician-preneur, as they say, right?
Yeah. Do you have a good story in your years of making music? Any moment that stands out like fondly?
Gosh, many moments stick out in my mind in terms of inspiration and enjoyment and happiness, things of that sort. But I will say that how I wound up connecting with the producer Chris Clark, that I then in turn worked on the entirety of Omega Man with, that is a very fond moment in my mind, especially because it seemed as though the stars aligned, if you will, and that I happened to be on this radio show, and he happened to think, I want to get more into producing and working with artists, and I'm just going to reach out to EG, and he did, and I responded, and I had a song on deck that I was really looking for the quote unquote right producer to fit the vibe that I was envisioning, and candidly, he sent me a first pass at it, and I was like, yeah, kind of like, it's all right. There's some things about it that I don't love. And how he handled that was like, cool, like, let's get on a call and let's like talk about it. And I was like, whoa, oh, nice. Like, it showed that he was willing to kind of like partner as a creative with me and really work through it. And I was like, oh, this guy's awesome. And he is awesome. I'm feel so fortunate to be friends with him and to have worked with him on this. He's incredibly talented and just a great guy. So that is one moment that sticks out in my mind where it's like, wow, if I, you look back and you say, what decisions did I have to make prior to that moment of us connecting on that radio show in the middle of a pandemic about 3 months in? What decisions and what things had to happen for that circumstance to arise and then for it to continue to evolve as it did? So that moment definitely sticks out fondly in my mind.
I know a lot, what drives musicians are goals. Like, do you have any long-term goals? How many albums I want to create or this or that? Like, what's your ultimate goal as an artist?
My goal as an artist? I have short-term goals, mid-term goals, long-term goals. And I think that ultimately I want to just keep creating and be able to live my life. And that sounds so existential or, kind of a little bit like philosophical in a way, but I want to keep creating, and I want to build a community of people that connect with, and relate with the music that I'm making, and just have a good time doing it. Right. I know that when you're saying like goals, there is a finite destination. I know it's like, oh, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. But truly, like, the experiences that creating music breeds for you, it is the point of making art, in my opinion.
Right.
Like I said, meeting Chris and being able to work with him and connecting with him. And we worked together so much through the pandemic, and I look back and I'm like, oh my God. And I can't believe that. I'm like, I look back during the pandemic. I know we're on the tail end of it, however you want to phrase it. But I feel so fortunate to have connected with him and to have that part. That is that is a big definition or talking point of my experience through pandemic. So again, don't have a straightforward answer for you there, but tough to have a finite destination.
What was the first release of EG, as you say?
The first, I put out the EG EP. I want to say, I would say that Spotify probably says in May of 2024. I'm sorry, of 2014. So it's been some time since that I've been making music, but in a former professional role that I had, I traveled a lot. So the consistency of creating was not as accessible. But once the traveling kind of slowed down, I was able to put a bit more intentional focus behind creating. So that's kind of, that's where it started. So
where can people find your music?
My most active platform is going to be Instagram. It's at EG Music NYC. And I have a link tree on there that'll direct you to all the right places. I have one link that links to all of the key release dates for Omega Man, another that links to my website, egmusicnyc.com. And I have a link for all the streaming sites, Spotify, Apple Music, the works. So that would be my most active. And then you could sign up for my newsletter to be on my email list. And you can sign up on my website, egmusicnyc.com. And yeah, those are the best channels. And then Spotify, if you're on Spotify, we talk so much about it. Type in my name, Emily Gabriele, into the search bar, EmilYGabriele. And there's a picture that'll come up of me. It's me in a hat, looking down, at least at this point in time. And you could and you should listen to Talking to Strangers.
You should. That's actually, you need to. If you don't, unsubscribe to this podcast. I'll lay it down right there.
Yeah, come on. Listen to Talking to Strangers. And shoot me a DM of your thoughts. I'm sure Sean can attest, I'm very responsive to any outreach. So
I appreciate this. I really do.
Yeah. Well, Sean, thank you so much for the opportunity. And I appreciate you having this platform of Sensibly Cynical to allow the opportunities for artists like myself to just chat about all the hard work that they're putting into their art. So thank you. Yeah,
of course. I like it because, like you said, it gives platforms to people that, that work so hard for them. And I feel like the least I can do is give them a platform on a, random podcast. I love it.
Sensibly Cynical. You have Emily Gabriele here with Sean. Thank you so much. Follow both Sensibly Cynical and at EG Music NYC on Instagram.
You beat me to it. I was just going to say, I was going to ask you what your social media handles are.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
So what are your other ones? You got Twitter, all that, Snapchat, all that? We'll TikTok.
Say I am on TikTok. At EG Music NYC. I'm most active on Instagram at EG Music NYC. And then once you're on my Instagram, everything links from there. So that's where I really like to drive the focus to.
Yeah, I'm not a big Twitter person, but people follow the podcast on Twitter. So, I don't hate Twitter that much, just a little bit.
It's great for conversations and for information and things. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I feel
all right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate the opportunity. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Adios.
Bye.
Bye. There you go. Another one in the books. Coming up next on the podcast, I am set to be joined by Digi of OnlyDance.tv. It is an amazing Twitch channel. I talked to him about games, all things games, how Twitch has changed the industry, and much more. So this was awesome, as was that, which will be dropped next week. Check us out on Twitter at Cynical Sensibly, Instagram, Sensibly Cynical Pod, and please check out our Facebook page. Also, we are on WordPress. You can check out the Sensibly Cynical mugs. They're on Bonfire. Everything Sensibly Cynical is on our link tree. Check it out. Instagram, bio has it all. All right, everybody, please stay safe and take care.